that countdown thing, but I guess it's too late now because we're live. Howdy, howdy. We are
Hey!
live on a Wednesday evening. We have some, no, Tuesday evening, right? Of course, yeah. It arrived on Tuesday, the breaking news. We should have known it was coming today. But yes, the big announcement, there's actually a few things announced, but the biggest
Mhm.
one, the Section 31 project that Paramount Plus has been teasing us about for what, 4 years now?
It's
I
like
think
4 years.
it was like Disco Season 2, like when Disco Season 2 is about to launch in
Mhm.
early 2019. That was when they first announced that, oh yeah, we're doing a Section 31 spinoff with Michelle Yeoh.
It's like if they only they had made it earlier and they they had her at their grasp.
But yeah, the long delayed, long teased, long rumored, mentioned, whatever you want to call it, Section 31 project will now be a made for streaming movie, or a movie event, is I guess like the buzzword they're using to describe it. But yes, it will go into production later this year. So I think they'll probably be looking to release it either the second half of next year, or they might even,
Yeah.
push it back to
I
2025. But probably
my
sometime next year.
I would say next year, maybe early. Because I assume I have to wait for Michelle Yeoh to be done filming Wicked,
Yeah, well,
unless she has anything else planned, which I'm not sure.
I know that she had some, the reason why I was so confident they were going to announce something soon with people who follow Tex-Trek, or who listen to the podcast, or the weekly live show we do on Fridays. People should subscribe so you don't miss that, in case you're wondering and you're new. If you do follow our content, I've been talking about Section 31 a good bit recently. I was saying, like with the Michelle Yeoh Oscar nomination and then eventually, win. I say, like, yeah, they're gonna try harder and harder. It's not gonna be an ongoing series with, multiple
Mhm.
seasons with her, but they could do like a limited series, or like a made for streaming movie. And looks like that's what we're doing. And I had heard there is some availability in her schedule sometime like this fall. Like I think
Yeah.
October. So it's like, okay,
That
they're gonna
makes
hurry up and try to shoot it
sense because
then.
I love that Michelle Yeoh's like two big projects right now are like my two special interests of Star Trek and Wizard of Oz.
Right. That's your
Uh,
favorite movie, and I don't know, is that your favorite like fictional like universe franchise,
yeah, I would
whatever
be
it
like
is?
Star Trek.
Okay.
Um, they uh, but so it's a two-parter movie, but her character would like the character she's playing would come and go from Wicked. Like she's not there the whole time. So I could see them being able to like film a lot of her stuff. Like I don't like I know they're filming at the same time. I don't know if they're like filming all the first movie and then filming all the second movie.
Mm.
But I could see them being able to like film her stuff so she could get out of there quicker than like other people in the cast.
Well, I I know that she's been incredibly busy, ever
Mhm.
since, I guess, her appearance in Star Trek Discovery. Shortly
Yeah.
after that, she also did Crazy Rich Asians, which
Mhm.
performed I guess it overperformed expectations. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then with the big success of Everything Everywhere All at Once, so she was like booked up with a lot of work before the Oscar thing. There, there
Mhm.
there were people scrambling to sign her. Like, we need to sign her now before she wins an Oscar and her rates go up. So, yeah,
I
they were
saw
really
a
gonna have to pull the trigger on something soon.
I saw a theory that someone was like, I bet her agent made her wait until she won that Oscar to like start negotiating things.
Yeah, I'm sure like anything that like they hadn't already like started, you know, conversations or negotiations with. They're like,
Mhm.
no, 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 we're gonna wait till we get this, see if we get this Oscar win. But it is kind of a cool thing that we can have stuff like that on TV now. It's
Yeah.
not so much like the big barrier between. It was crazy that they were able to get a TOS actor on Next Generation with
Mhm.
DeForest Kelly and uh Well, I gotta think of the name of the episode.
Encounter at Fairpoint.
Encounter at Farpoint,
Yeah.
yeah. But you know, and he kind of did that as kind of a favor to Gene Roddenberry, who I guess DeForest always stayed on like really good terms with Gene. He's always, I guess, pretty grateful for the career and the opportunities and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, you know, those movie actors didn't want to, you know, get paid to scale like that and do some TV appearance. And you know, it's like, what if they want me in another movie? And you know, they're going to think that I'll work for cheap and you know, whatever. But you know, in this modern age, the streaming age, you know, after we've had, you know, True Detective, that who was in True, it was like Matthew McConaughey and like some other like big
Woody
actor, right?
Harrelson.
Yeah. So, you know, now Paramount Plus has, you know, Harrison Ford on a TV show, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't seem
I
like quite that big of a stretch that we would get her back. So
I was trying to think, is there any other Trek main cast actors who've won Oscars? I can't think of any.
yeah, because none of the TOS people, none of the
No.
really like the only contenders would probably have been, you know, Patrick Stewart
Yeah.
and anyone since him who might have.
That's what I can. And so like they're all great actors, obviously, but there used to be such a divide between TV and movies.
Yeah, they're people who.
And there's definitely reoccurring actors before. That's why I specified lead or main.
Right. Yeah. So that is kind of cool for the franchise, and I do see in
Mhm.
the audience there's a little bit of confusion in some of the live chat. PE is asking. So this movie won't be in theaters at all. No, it is going to be a streaming movie made by an order from Paramount Plus. They're the ones
Mhm.
backing this. They're going to pay for it. Um, I think it's pretty likely that they'll do some type of limited release, not unlike what they just did with Picard
Yeah.
season
Hopefully a
3.
little less limited.
Yeah, hopefully they put it on more than just like a few
10.
IMAX screens. Like, you know, they and I would love to see any of the stuff on IMAX, but you know, if my choice is like, you know, drive to Dallas or see it, you know, somewhere else, I'll
Mhm.
gladly see it in like a different theater
I
screens.
would gladly go to an Alamo Drafthouse or an AMC to see
Yeah.
it too.
Which, and honestly, if they put it on IMAX, they should have it here in Austin at the Bob Bullock, because that's actually the largest IMAX screen in Texas. And you know,
Mhm.
in Texas, we make like a big deal about like when things are like the biggest of it. The University of Texas, as a matter of fact, as if I can go on like a weird tangent. I went to what game did I go to when they played Iowa State in football last year?
Mhm.
And they retired their giant bass drum, Big Bertha. It had turned at 100 years old, so they retired the band's bass drum, and then they brought out what they had it specially made, but the largest bass drum in the world, and to replace Big Bertha for the University of Texas band. So yeah, like the fact that we have like the biggest IMAX screen here in Austin, it's like, yeah, they need to show some Star Trek. So I did see Star
Mhm.
Trek Beyond and Star Trek '09, and I guess Star Trek. I saw all 3 Kelvin movies there.
I
So
don't think I've ever seen any Trek in an IMAX theater. I've seen them in like normal movie
mhm.
theaters. Part of that is that I have an Alamo Drafthouse season pass, so unless it's something like a big event, I'm gonna be using the Drafthouse, so they don't.
There you go.
I say yeah, Whoopi Goldberg is why I specified lead actor of like
Yeah.
main actor. But I don't. I guess I wasn't even thinking about the movies as much. Christopher Plummer does have an Oscar. I don't.
Yeah, there's definitely been Star
Yeah.
Trek actors. Yeah, I remember Christopher Plummer got his Oscar in, like 2009 or so. I can't remember what it was for, but I remember when he won. Thinking like, you
Because
know,
he
good
was
for him.
the oldest. He might be the oldest winner.
Maybe, but yeah,
I
it's
know he at least got nominated for that movie. He replaced James. That he replaced. Oh my God, Spacey. I don't. Kevin. Is his first name Kevin?
oh yeah, Kevin
Yeah.
Spacey. I forgot that
Um.
that was the situation there, but
Yep.
I guess
He apparently they wanted Christopher Plummer anyways,
oh,
but then
guess it worked out.
the studio wanted a bigger name, so they got Kevin Spacey. That they were like, we don't want Kevin Spacey anymore, and they refilmed everything with Christopher Plummer.
Well, I have the press release, I guess, that came out that we'll go through there and see what information we can mine out of it. But yeah, basically let me wait for this to load. Okay, it should be there. Okay, you can see it. So this is just trekcore.com where I
Mhm.
I'm browsing to get this from, but here's the official press release that came out today. Paramount Plus announces Star Trek Section 31 original movie event starring Oscar winner Michelle. Yeah, they're gonna say Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh as frequently as possible.
As they should. Good for her.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
You need to fire your marketing people if you didn't
yeah.
bring that up. Um, Okay, here we go. Paramount Plus today announced it has officially greenlit Star Trek Section 31. So this is the official name of it. And
Mhm.
you got it in all caps and everything. Star Trek Section 31, the name of the movie. Starring Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh. In the special original movie event for the service, Yeoh will return to her role as Emperor Philippa Georgiou, a character she first played Star Trek Discovery's first season. Section 31, Emperor Georgiou joins a secret division of Starfleet tasked with protecting the United Federation of Planets and faces the sins of her past, produced by CBS Studios. Production will begin later this year. So, from here we can see they're doing the the thing they've been doing in modern Trek of Section 31 as part of Starfleet, which I don't really like. However, I've always been excited about exploring this with the character of Giorgio
Mhm.
because when this was going to be a TV show, the writers that they had developing it, and that's one of the reasons why I knew they were always real serious about doing this. Is like, oh yeah, they put together like a writers' room to break the season. I don't know how many episodes they actually scripted, but like writers don't write for free. There's talk about them
Yeah.
going on strike right now, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, the fact that they were like paying people for that meant there's big interest in doing this.
Although to be fair, part of the reason they're going on strike is they kind of do expect them to develop for free, and they
Yeah,
can't live on
yeah.
that. So.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of the industry has changed so much because of
Mhm.
streaming and yeah, it's uh, a good thing that I think a lot of these people do have like union protection. You look at like some of like the special effects industry, which they never unionized. They kind of showed up to the party late because we didn't have CGI effects decades ago. So yeah, the way that those
Mhm.
people get treated is a lot different than the rest of the industry. But
Yeah.
Erica Lapointe and Bowie Kim had convinced me that, oh no, we're not going to betray the Star Trek values. We're going to make a show that actually leans into that. And
Mhm.
what I was able to learn from what people were saying is that that show would have probably focused on Section 31 starting off a little bit more benevolent and then slowly becoming the weird evil organization we see in Deep Space Nine, which for some reason no one has heard about anymore. And they had said like we're gonna explain all of that and make it all fit. So it's like
Mhm.
cool. I wasn't sure if I wanted a Section 31 show, but if this is going to, fix all the stuff that I have issues with and make it work, then absolutely I want you to do it. Well, they're not doing that show now. Clearly they're doing a movie. So it's like,
I wonder. I'm curious to see if this will be a movie that is like completely a one-off, or if it ends up like having a sequel, or
yeah, and it's gonna be weird to use this as kind of it's not gonna be very like new viewer friendly, I don't think, because she's a
no.
character with a kind of a weird backstory. I mean, yeah, you can do like a little like 5-minute recap of it, but even that's
It's
still gonna be
like
like a little weird.
I feel like it'll be new user family. They'll be like, "Oh, I know Michelle Yeoh. I love her. Open it. What is this?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's like she
I can imagine if I try to show this to people, I'll have to pause. They'll be like, "Okay, so here's what happened in Star Trek Discovery."
she like ruled over an evil universe in the future, but it's not our future, it's a parallel universe. And then she comes over, but then goes into the future, but then the Guardian of Forever, which was a thing from the original series, but now he calls himself Carl and he sends her back to some point. We don't know the time period. uh
I know that's. I've always assumed she was going back to Discovery like
yeah, like the
era, and that
23rd century.
because at the time it was announced, I don't think Strange New Worlds had been announced.
No, yeah, this is before
So I had
this
thought
is
like
before
maybe
we'd
she would
even
run into
seen
like,
Pike.
yeah, that's what I like thought maybe she'd run into like Pike, since they were obviously leaving them. I don't think that would be happening anymore. That'd be too much. I could see them bringing like Ash Tyler in, but
They were originally going to use Shazad Latif
Mhm.
in the show, so it was something that he had talked about. Of course, I think he's on like some other British show right now. I know he's done like some
Mhm.
BBC stuff or whatever
I
other networks they
I
have
could
over
see
there.
like I'm not saying obviously I don't know what he like if this his schedule would allow for it, but if like he might be able to like show up in the movie if like with it just being a movie now.
He's kind of a weird dude. I remember seeing him at like some red carpet event. I think it was like the premiere of Discovery season 2 or something. And
Mhm.
they're like trying to like ask him some question on the red carpet. And he's just like, I'm not sure. I'm really high on mushrooms right now. So probably not a good time for me to answer. It's just like, that's
Okay, dude.
that's not something you typically hear from, I don't remember like James Doohan or
Mhm.
LeVar Burton ever saying that, but that's
It's
cool.
it's not something you should say at a work event.
Yeah, but I don't mind Shazad Latif. I think he was
Mhm.
fine as Ash Tyler. I think he didn't
Mhm.
have like the best chemistry with Sonequa Martin Green, but I don't really blame the actors for how that romance was handled. And I don't think it was
No,
bad. It's just like it
I
was
think
only in
she
retrospect seeing her
with Book.
with Book, yeah, with
You're
David
also just like
Ajala.
I was like, "Oh, this is what the chemistry should have been."
Yeah. But no, I think his character could have an interesting role to play in
Agreed.
this project. So
I also saw someone like because I kind of hope for this too. Like if they I I don't know if they got Prime Lorca out of the mirror universe.
oh, this would be such a cool use of Prime Lorca because,
Mhm.
obviously Emperor Giorgio mirror universe ties,
Yeah.
and we all want Lorca back. And uh,
I like I
remind
prefer like I want the Lorca we saw to stay dead. I would be fascinated to meet Prime Lorca. I want to see how similar and how different he is.
yeah, and you'd kind of have like a lot of freedom for Oscar. What's not Oscar? What's the name of That's the Poe
Jason
Dameron guy,
Isaacs.
Jason Isaacs. Yeah, not Oscar Isaac, but
And
yeah,
I would say Jason Isaacs played Prime Lorca in Star Trek Online, so I feel like that's indication he'd be like willing to do that.
Yeah, and he's always said he'd be open to doing it if he had
Mhm.
like a big juicy part. He basically
Yeah.
doesn't want to show up for like a small cameo. I think that's the reason why we didn't see him in Disco season 3.
I I have no problem with him not wanting to do a cameo.
Yeah.
I do not understand why the rating of that episode mentioned him so much to the fact that I was expecting Jason Isaac to show up.
Well, I think he was going to I think he was going to be like that guy like sending like that distress call from
Yeah.
like that ship that
They
gets
should have
destroyed,
if once they realized they weren't getting him, they should have taken some of those Lorca references out.
but it would be interesting for him because he could basically like whatever Lorca isms that you want to keep, you can keep doing that.
Mhm.
But you can also make this guy as different as you want
It
as well. So
I don't know, did you ever watch The Flash?
yeah, the
I feel like you could use him the way they use like, not as insanely as they end up using him, but, like, how they use Wells.
right, yeah. So one of the characters on that show, it's
Mhm.
basically like that actor plays a lot of different versions of this character because they have
Mhm.
multiverse stuff and
Yeah.
alternate timeline stuff and doppelganger stuff. Uh, yeah,
But
there's
he starts off in the 1st season as very much a Lorca-esque character, and that there was, like, a thing where it was, like, for some reason, I kept running into the same plot twist of, "Oh, I like this good character. Oh, wait, no, he's an evil person who took over that person's life?" Happened, the but, so he ends up coming back as, like, a different, nicer, less evil version of that other one.
Yeah, and a lot of us watching Disco season 1, we
Mm.
were kind of like, I kind of like this captain. I hope he doesn't
Mhm.
turn out to be an evil asshole from the Mirror Universe. um,
Oh, no.
yeah, it's very reminiscent now, especially with Picard season 3, which I don't know if people want like Picard season 3 spoilers. I know we're
Mm.
talking about section 31, so if you're not caught up on Picard, I don't know, you might be here, but like the same way there's like this big desire for like a lot of people want more like Captain Shaw. There is
Mhm.
there is a big desire for more Lorca a few years ago.
Um, yes, I saw Geek Filter. Flash went to the wells a few too many times, and I'm like,
Well
I
said.
they went insane with how much how much they used wells. I don't want that. That's not what I'm saying.
um, yeah, and I see we have a lot of our regulars are here, but
Mhm.
also and Aaron is here, but we also have Trek on the Tube and Trek Culture. So I guess a lot of people
Hi.
or tuning in. They want Rachel. They want to hear if you have like any more like great theories. I think so.
Insane theories that
Yeah.
turn out to very much not be true.
Yes,
So
or if anyone in the audience has any like crazy Section 31 theories or predictions, if they want to drop them now,
my crazy theory is they should bring Lorca in. I think that's my.
The thing is, if you have a crazy theory now and it turns out to be totally wrong, that's okay. Everyone will forget about it by the time the show comes out. But if you get it right, then you can just be like, look, back on the day they announced it, I
Back on the
called it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
So.
did the. I saw someone else on Twitter say that too, but I was also thinking it. Like I've always thought, like they should bring Prime Lorca back, and like the Section 31 show or Strange New Worlds would be a good place to do it. I feel like he probably work better on Section 31.
Yeah, I do too, because they could do like some darker, edgier stuff. Although maybe they need like a captain who's a little more rough around the edges to share some screen time with Anson Mount's Pike. I think that might be interesting too.
That would be interesting.
But
I
he could do
also
both. We could introduce a Prime Lorca in Section 31 and then have him show up on an episode of Strange New Worlds at some point.
totally. I also feel like if they have him on Strange New Worlds, they'll have to do we have to explain why why we don't think this Lorca is evil. Or else, if he's like Section 31, he can stay in the shadows.
Yeah, he could just be off the books and off the grid. There's a quote in the announcement from a few different people. I'm gonna read the one from Michelle Yeoh. She says, "I'm beyond thrilled to return to my Star Trek family and to the role I've loved for so long. Section 31 has been near and dear to my heart since I began." That's odd to hear someone speak so sentimentally about something as nefarious as Section 31.
I'm sure she means like the
Yes.
show and
Yeah,
the idea of being part of it.
right.
But
Yeah, it's just kind of funny to read.
yeah.
Section 31 has been near and dear to my heart since I began the journey of playing Philippa all the way back when this new golden age of Star Trek launched. To see her finally get her moment is a dream come true in a year that's shown me the incredible power of never giving up on your dreams. We can't wait to share what's in store for you, and until then, live long and prosper. And then in parentheses, she says, unless Emperor Georgiou decrees otherwise. So that's fun. I love seeing when actors, especially if they're a big star like her, when they seem to appreciate just the opportunity of being in Star Trek, because we're such a a unique franchise. These actors talk all the time how it's like unlike any other job, right? You have like this huge fan base. And
I know I said this on Twitter, but it's clear that like one from this message and also just being like doing this, that like Michelle Yeoh obviously cares about Star Trek and obviously cares about the character, because if she didn't want to be doing this right now, she wouldn't be. Like she has never been busier and never been in a like better position in Hollywood. And the fact that she's like taking time to like, I'm gonna go back and play Georgiou.
Yeah, like she didn't like turn her back on Star Trek. I mean, she probably could have. She's getting like all kinds of offers right now. She's really busy.
Yeah,
but she's always said she wanted to come back and finish that story. There's such an obvious setup in Disco season 3 when she steps into the Guardian of Forever. It's like, when she's trying to talk to Michael Burnham, and then Michael's just like, hey, why don't you tell those people that you're gonna meet on the other side of this portal? Like you're gonna go off and have like a whole new cast of characters to go on an adventure with. So, and then she looks at the camera and says, "Viewers, you need to stay subscribed to Paramount Plus so that you can see that too."
Just wait a couple years. Look, a lot's going on. I mean, think that the third season of Discovery was filmed before like COVID and everything. Like they didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think just it was a very chaotic time in early Discovery, as everyone knows. It's been well discussed. Brian Fuller took too long to develop the show, and he got fired, and then people didn't get along with his little lieutenants that were left to run everything, and eventually they just said, here, Alex Kurtzman, you be in charge of everything, and by the way, make us some other shows. While all that was going on, Akiva Goldsman had he was one of the cooks in the kitchen at the time, and the things he was really pushing for was a Pike show and a Picard show, and he got both of them. They both are things now. But that kind of, there's a big push for that, and so that kind of took away from like the Section 31 stuff. I definitely think though, would love to ask some of these people because I think it's kind of obvious, but it's unconfirmed. But they were for sure using they were for sure using Discovery as kind of a testing grounds for some of these spin-off ideas. If
Mhm.
you look at New Eden, I talk about this all the time, but New Eden, what, season 2, episode 2 of Discovery, I believe that's the church planet. Pike goes to the church
Yeah.
planet, basically. That was clearly, it was even written by Akiva Goldsman, who was trying to, pitch a Pike show. That was, I think, clearly kind of a backdoor pilot of what Strange New Worlds would eventually become. It's like, let's do a little self-contained story. They show up, they meet a planet. It's kind of a traditional Star Trek type episode, and Anson Mount will be the lead. And we
Mhm.
got that in New Eden. Then the episode, I think, after that, was it Point of Light, is the one where we see Georgiou on Kronos, like doing like all the shady Klingon politics stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when they reveal Leyland and that Section 31 ship. I was like, oh, that
Mhm.
was their little backdoor pilot for a Section 31 show. And then
Mhm.
in season 4, we got the backdoor pilot. Was it All Is Possible with Tilly and the cadets on the snowy
Oh,
ice
yeah.
planet? It's like, yeah, they were testing out their Starfleet Academy show there. So, I think in retrospect, it's really obvious. I know what you were doing in Star Trek
Mhm.
Discovery.
It, I love that it's just not as awkward as backdoor pilots used to be. Like, but no, it's like, um, I a part of me is, like, excited because online, I saw a bunch of people being like, "Oh, the fact Discovery is ending," even though it was on for 5 years, and that's a pretty good run for a show, especially in this day and age. Obviously, that means it was a failure, and we're like, "Look, here's, like, a few spinoffs based on this show." Like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, I get not everyone likes Discovery, but it was a
Mhm.
very successful show. It
Yeah.
had five seasons and three direct spin-offs. I mean, you could also
Mhm.
argue that the animated shows are spin-offs as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you could
And,
argue
like,
Picard's a
3
spin-off.
direct spinoffs and, like, other shows that were, like, inspired by the fact it brought back Star Trek.
But yeah, Discovery did its job. It made people like, actually be like, oh, what the hell is the CBS All Access? Is what the hell is
Mhm.
that? I guess I need to look into that. And I got Star Trek in production again. And I think that if Discovery hadn't have been, a big, maybe part of its divisiveness that might have helped it. Like there's no
Mhm.
such thing as bad publicity. So the fact that there was so much buzz and conversation about Discovery, I think, it might have contributed. But yeah, it's been an interesting show. It's had an interesting lifespan, and
Mhm.
it's weird how maybe I shouldn't even say weird, but Discovery is kind of like, it was always changing. Like every season is kind of trying to like reinvent itself.
Mhm.
And that did lead to a wide variety of spin-offs. I think whatever Section 31 is, I think it'll be very different from this far-flung future Academy show, and I think it'll be very different from what Strange New Worlds is,
Oh, definitely.
which is kind of what Alex Kurtzman's mission statement seems to be. He's trying to do a wide variety of shows to attract a wide variety of demographics, and that's something that he's flat out stated at times. There's the, I guess, show catering to like the Berman era of Star Trek with Picard. There's
Mhm.
like the new flashy show Discovery, uh catering, I think, more to like, people who might have come in through like the Kelvin movies and stuff like that. We have Lower Decks for like the Adult Swim crowd. Whenever I see like people talk about like, yeah, like you're like a adult animation crowds, like, oh yeah, the stoners. But they have Prodigy for the Nickelodeon kids.
Mhm.
I guess they're going after like the CW demographic with the Academy show. So
Yeah, definitely, and I think there is, like they're trying to, like, get younger people to watch Star Trek, which is, like, good.
yeah, I think that if Star Trek's really popular in 20 or 30 years, you're gonna have like a lot of people saying like, yeah, I got into it as a kid watching Prodigy.
Mhm.
So I'm
I
curious if
definitely
that'll be.
I feel like it'll be very similar to, like, I meet, like, young adults now whose, like, introduction to Star Wars was, like, the Clone Wars
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many like youngsters that are. Or, yeah, I shouldn't say youngsters. But yeah, like people in
Children.
their 20s who are like, yeah, to me, Star Wars was like the Clone Wars and playing
Hmm.
KOTOR on the Xbox. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like to me, Star Wars was like 3 movies. But that's I guess different for everyone. Um, Alex Kurtzman in this press release, he says all the way back in 2017, before the first season of Star Trek Discovery had even aired, Michelle had the idea to do a spin-off for her character, Philippa Georgiou. She broke new ground as one of the first 2 women on screen in the pilot to usher in a new age of Trek, and now 6 years later, Star Trek Section 31 finally arrives on the heels of her latest groundbreaking win. Everyone on Team Trek couldn't be more thrilled to have our legendary friend return home to us as we expand our storytelling into new uncharted corners of the Trekverse. Long live Emperor Georgiou, long live Michelle Yeoh. Which is true. She was in the first episode of the first show of this new
I
era. So
I feel like I saw a quote that said like someone said she was the first person cast in Discovery, which I if that's true, I don't know. It seems like she could be.
M maybe. I mean, it would make
She's in the
sense,
pilot.
they
Like,
yeah, and they wanted someone big,
mhm.
for you want people to, like, talk about, like, the pilot and,
Yeah.
have her in, like, all the trailers and have pictures of her on, like, all, like,
Mhm.
the promo material and stuff,
And like
so
and I was gonna say, so Sonequa Martin Green wasn't an unknown. She was like in The Walking Dead, but she wasn't like a household name
yeah.
the way like someone like Michelle Yeoh
If I recall
is.
correctly, like, she was kind of one of the last ones. Well, she was, like, the last one that they announced officially because they were waiting for her character to die on The Walking Dead, but,
But it's like everyone kind of knew weirdly, like somehow it got
yeah.
leaked.
Yeah, it was not a well-kept secret.
I think they
Um,
literally said when they announced it, like, "If the worst kept secret," like
I know, like, Doug Jones was cast pretty early,
Mhm.
and he didn't even have to audition. They just like, "Doug Jones, we know from all of your many, many
I mean,
performances
that
as these
makes
strange
who else
creatures, you'll."
literally,
Yeah.
who else could play Saru?
Yeah,
Like
I can't remember where it was a convention or something, and I heard Doug Jones, like, tell that story about, like, I didn't even have to audition, they just, like, called me with an offer, and I said, "Okay." And then, like, he was on stage with, like, another actor, and that other actor was like, "Oh my god, I hate you right now." We hear so many stories like these actors, and they have to go through, like, 4, 5, 6 rounds of
I
auditions.
it sounds miserable the way
Yeah,
auditioning sounds.
and nerve-wracking too.
I
Imagine
know
having to go to that many, like, job interviews, and
I've done job interviews, they make you do a couple rounds, and it's awful, I hate it. I think it was the actor Bill Nye, and they said, "How did your career change after Love Actually?" And he said, "I had to stop like, they stopped asking me to audition, I just got offers, it was the best thing in the world."
yeah, it must be nice to have your career at that state.
Yeah.
But they're going to be shooting in the fall. Just kind of like a
Mhm.
general rule of thumb with a movie or with a season of television. It's not exact, but you can kind of count on about, okay, 6 months of pre-production, 6 months of production, and then 6 months of post-production. So by the if
Mhm.
cameras are rolling, normally that means you'll be finished about a year. So I think they're only going to be shooting a 2 hour thing, so that might speed things up considerably because TV tends to move pretty fast. I think that, like, I know the TV that they make now is so cinematic, but I
Mhm.
think yeah, it'll probably be a little bit more like a TV style production than a real movie production. So as far as like when they might release it, I think the earliest to be like the middle of summer next year. But that might even be like too early. Um, but there we know that we're getting Discovery in early 2024. So I think that'll be like January or February. That'll kind of be like the
Mhm.
Picard for this year, and then we'll get season 3 of Strange New Worlds in either May or June, and then probably a Lower Deck season 4 in August, and there should be a remaining 10 episodes of Prodigy, and they might end up renewing Prodigy for a third season, but we'll still have like 10 episodes of that to. So there's going to be plenty of Star Trek next year. I think we can count on like 40 episodes and a movie. So that's pretty cool. I don't know when it'll come out. I don't know if like they'll drop it like while one of the shows is on, or if they'll like, oh, we're gonna put it like here in July in between, Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, or something like that. I
Mhm.
don't know, but we won't have to wait too long. We
It
should
would
see it next year.
make like, with the assumption that if she did go back to the time she came from, it would kind of make sense to do it around around the same time as Strange New World, since they would,
Mm.
I assume take place at the same time period. Again, I don't actually know where she went.
Yeah, and that's something that they've been really vague on. They've never flat
Mhm.
out said that she does go back to the 23rd century when Carl offers her
Mhm.
a new life somewhere.
I
Uh
assume they wanted to keep their options open.
Totally. And
Mhm.
the Alex Kurtzman has said at one point, he said, like, the time period that her show is set at, back when it was going to be a show, he said, the time period that it's going to be set in might surprise you. So I've been like, I wonder what he
'Cause
meant
I
by
always
that.
assumed she had to go at least somewhat, like, the explanation they gave of why she had to go back, if she has to be closer to her own time period, right?
Yes. Yeah, so
Mhm.
her issue was because she is removed from her universe and removed from her point in time, that her atoms couldn't hold themselves together. They were gonna
Mhm.
break down because she needed to be, I guess, like, more familiar space-time. So they were so she either has to go back to the mirror universe or go back, some point in the past.
Mhm. I don't see them doing having her go back to the mirror
Yeah. No,
universe.
because those
One,
the
because the show is called Section 31,
right.
or movie or whatever.
Yeah, so could be 23rd century seems most likely to me. I guess it's possible that she could just be like time hopping, like jumping all over the place, but that almost seems like a different premise in and of itself,
That does
right?
seem like a different, I want that movie, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know I want that to be a
You could
Section
do like
31
you could do like
movie.
a Star Trek Time Fleet movie and do like
Yeah.
something with, like, people like Crewman Daniels or some of those, like, time
That
cops.
I want don't I want it, like, I don't know.
Will we ever have like enough Star Trek for everyone? We keep coming up with
Mhm.
like these ideas, like, oh yeah, they should do that show and do that show and do that show. There's also another quote from Dominic Miglio, or however you say his name. He's like the head of marketing at Paramount Plus. But Dominic says, "We're thrilled that Section 31 will be the next title in our Star Trek universe. Michelle Yeoh is an incomparable talent. She brought Emperor Georgiou to life in such an incredibly fun and nuanced way that the character immediately became a fan favorite." This guy does work in marketing. He's like
Mhm.
he's uh
I was reading that one earlier, but I do have a friend where Georgiou is his favorite character. He is the first person I texted when this news dropped.
yeah, no, my um I guess ex-partner
Mhm.
at this point, but she is a big fan of Michelle Yeoh as Giorgio. Um
Mhm.
Yeah, he goes on to say, "We're so thrilled to welcome Michelle back to Star Trek and Paramount Plus family, and can't wait for fans to see what the special movie event has in store. For years, we've been looking forward to Michelle Yeoh one day returning to Star Trek." Yeah, it has been years.
Mhm.
This is David Staff now, the president of CBS Studios. That's like the production side of all this. CBS Studios is the actual, like, production company. um, Her powerful performance as Captain and Emperor Giorgio was a pivotal moment for the return of the franchise, and her betrayal resonated with fans around the world in a multitude of ways. That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh has a lot of popularity overseas.
I like someone acknowledging that Captain Georgiou.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Captain and Emperor.
Mhm.
I would love to have more stories of like the Shinjo, when you have like Michael and
Mhm.
Saru as like these younger officers, and have the good Giorgio, the Prime Universe Giorgio, as the captain.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, David Staff goes on to say, "We couldn't be prouder to join forces with Michelle once again as we continue to explore the Star Trek universe, celebrate its legacy, and chart a course for the future of the franchise." And if this is kind of important, the movie is going to be written by Craig Sweeney. He was a writer producer way back in season 1 of Discovery. So he would have been there when they were, cooking up this character initially, kind of
Mhm.
like the inception. And it'll be directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. So Tunde is kind of like the head director on Discovery. He directs like the big episodes, like normally like the season premieres and season finales are him. That's interesting. The series finale is going to be Jonathan Frakes. But he's I think he's actually leaving Star Trek now. He's got something else booked. He's going on to something else. But I guess he's coming back for one last outing, or at least last for right now with this movie. So I think it'll. I think it'll be pretty close to what their initial ideas were for the most part. Just that it is like, okay, these people that have kind of been working from Discovery from like day one. So whatever. Now that I'm thinking about this and saying some of the stuff out loud, that kind of makes me feel like a little bit better about the things I liked. What Bowie Kilm and Erica Lapointe, when they were saying like, no, we're going to find a way to connect all the dots to make all the Section 31 stuff make sense. All the like little inconsistencies between Discovery and DS9 and everything else, we're going to fix all that, and we're not going to abandon like the Roddenberry values of Star Trek. That's kind of like, which that's kind of a funny thing to get too concerned about, because we can't even agree like what are like the Roddenberry values of Star Trek. That seems to be something that's like constantly debated, but yeah, so that'll be going into production very soon. So this will actually like start shooting. We'll have cameras rolling on this before that Starfleet Academy show, because they're not shooting that until early next year.
Oh no, Jill, I saw Jill. I don't think Father was saying that Franks is leaving Star Trek. I think
Tunde is leaving. Yeah, no, Jonathan Frakes really wants them to make that Star Trek Legacy show, and he wants to be the Olatunde Osunsanmi of that show, and kind of be like one of the producers in charge of creating and developing it. So yeah, Jonathan Frakes ain't going anywhere. He was just talking on the Ready Room how like he's not even done playing Riker, when Will Wheaton was like, "This is probably the last time you're here on this couch as an actor." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna play Riker some more."
I could see him being one of the ones that if the Academy show does what I want them to do, if it's set in the future and be like bring in like guest lecturer holograms, I could see him being like, "I'm here to play Riker."
Oh, they do give Michelle Yeoh a producer credit on here, which isn't too surprising. They do that a lot with like big actors to like help pay them. Like Patrick Stewart, that was one of his. I guess
it's like
his agreement to do Picard.
One is they get paid more, and it's like, and two, they get more creative control.
So that I think that this is also kind of an interesting experiment if they're going to get into doing these made for streaming movies, as opposed to just they didn't even want to do a Khan miniseries a few years ago when Nicholas Meyer was trying to develop that into a show, because they're like, no, if we're gonna like spend the money to build sets and make wardrobe, we want it to be something we can like reuse, do like multiple seasons of.
I mean, I get that in theory, but I also feel like there's like just such a place in the Star Trek universe to tell short stories.
Yeah, I always thought that like short treks was a neat idea, and you could do like an interesting thing with like a an anthology type series of stories. But just
God, was it Trek Central that called this Long Trek on Twitter?
Maybe, but yeah, I think telling these stories as a full-length movie instead of a little 15-second short might, and those things, they were all like, they felt like kind of cheap, and like they didn't want to put like too much budget or too much effort into those, because they're trying to make the shows, and that's I guess like the bread and butter. The short treks were just like little cheap things to keep people subscribed, keep the Trekkies subscribed. Yeah, doing like these big 2-hour movies, especially in an era when we're not getting, this is like kind of like the first time ever like there's been like no Star Trek movies since from 1979 up until 2016. we're pretty much getting a movie every 2 or 3 years. There's like one 4-year gap in there, and then there's
I
one 7-year gap in
Yeah,
there.
I think we talked about this in a group chat, but they seem to be dead set on the next theatrical release being Star Trek 4, a movie they cannot get off the ground.
Yeah. So, if they're Paramount Pictures seems like determined, like the only thing they want to do is more Kelvin movies, because
Mhm.
they kind of have tunnel vision. They want like that $1 billion box office return. They want to have like more big successes like Top Gun Maverick. So
Yeah.
I don't think that Star Trek is like a big blockbuster mega franchise like that
I
though. Like I don't.
You know how they should be trying to make money is merchandising, but no one needs this rant from me again. So,
Uh,
and I would love for them to actually make Star Trek 4, but I also stand by my joke of I will believe that it's happening when I'm sitting in a movie theater watching it.
yeah, and yeah, I think the biggest problem
Although
with
I was
that.
wrong about this. So, like, retiring my joke about this, which was every time something good happened to you, Michelle Yeoh, I went, huh, we're never getting that Section 31 show, are we? To be fair, we aren't. We're getting a movie. So I
Right,
was still
right.
right.
And it's possible that this movie could spin off into a show that I don't think
Hmm.
she would be the lead on, but she might like guest appear or something.
That I could definitely see because I think she's just too busy to commit to a TV show.
Yeah. But in this era of streaming services kind of tightening their belts and trying to cut spending, and Paramount Plus probably not wanting as many Star Trek shows in production. Like I don't know if you're going to want to do 5 shows. We might like I mean, it looks like right now we're moving down to 4. We're just going to have like the
Hmm.
2 animateds and then Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy. Uh but yeah, maybe so if they're not going to do a Section 31 spin-off show and just do this as like one movie, there's always the potential for doing sequels to it.
Hmm.
There is another story today from the Hollywood Reporter that has, according to their sources, Alex Kurtzman is going to be trying to make a Star Trek movie every 2 years for Paramount Plus for streaming, and that almost seems like too few. Like 2 years to make a made for streaming movie seems like pretty easy. So
I mean, that's true. I guess these have like they try to I'm wondering if like the effects quality I think the effects qualities on the shows look really good, but I wonder if like this will be like if they'll try to make them closer to like what movies are.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if they would have like a movie level budget, but
Mhm.
I think that they would have more time, as far as like
Yeah.
your production schedule goes. I think it'll be
Mhm.
more manageable. So we'll probably have like some big spectacle effects in
Yeah.
here that
All
and
right. So I was looking at the chat, and then the thing they're saying that Chris Pine's movies outside of Star Trek aren't making a lot of money, and I don't think that's true. D&D did really well.
um and that was another Paramount thing.
Yeah,
So
and
I wonder if they're gonna try to do like a because that's one of the big things now that a lot of the streaming services are doing is like they want to have like big hit movies that also have like potential for like spin-offs. It's all about like shared universes now with
mhm.
Marvel. So it's like, oh, they could do like a D&D show on Paramount Plus, maybe.
They could.
That would almost that's like a I'm not like a D&D person. I've never played D&D, but I know enough to know like that's such like a big
Yeah.
universe. You could easily
I
have like multiple
and the
stories going
D&D
on there.
movie was really good. Like I really like I think like I obviously enjoyed it as someone who plays D&D, but I think like it was genuinely really funny that I even if I didn't know the underpinnings, like you don't need to play D&D to enjoy that movie.
Um yeah, I should go see that movie. Maybe I'll wait for it to hit Paramount Plus.
I was just because I think they were saying like, oh, did it do that well after marketing? I think Dungeons and Dragons did like surprisingly well. Is the
I haven't looked. I have no idea what the box office return is. I've kind of haven't been paying attention the last couple of weeks. Uh, I only have eyes for Star Trek these days. It keeps me busy enough. But speaking of that, the other big announcement today from the, or not an announcement, but the story that broke from the Hollywood Reporter saying that Kurtzman is going to be developing a movie every 2 years, or at least that's the goal, that's the objective. I was just having a conversation with our friend Aaron, or Geek Filter, in the audience right now. But I was talking to him last night about if the movie people at Paramount, the Paramount Pictures people, who they're the ones who get the final say on what movie is going to production, what they're doing movie wise, even though it's the same company as what's going on Paramount Plus. It's different people, different departments, different decisions. They're focused on this fourth Kelvin movie, but we have like a great setup in Picard season 3 for a spinoff for more 25th century stuff, for like the proposed Star Trek Legacy show that Terry Matalas wants to make. They could easily tell those stories within a movie format, and they could do that theatrically. But if those people don't want to do it, here's like another option. They could just like do the movies on streaming. And as much as I love the like like that magic experience of like seeing a movie on the big screen with an audience, and being like part of a community, and like eating the popcorn in the theater, just like kind of that whole ritual of like sit down, watch the trailers, lights go down, everything, the movie starts. It is a really really cool, a really like fun experience to have. But I mean, yeah, like movies look great on my big screen TV at home. It's convenient as hell to watch them in my living room on streaming. We really don't need like the theater world. As much as it pains me to say that as like an old school movie buff. I love cinema, but I think, yeah, we don't need Star Trek to succeed in the theater. I think we can do like really great Star Trek movies released at home through streaming. And if they're determined like we don't want to mess with Star Trek because it's too small potatoes for the movies. We want like big $1 billion movies. If Star Trek ain't gonna do that for us, then we don't want to do it. We don't want to do like no smaller budget Star Trek. Then okay, you know what, Hollywood, fine. Like we'll just do it on TV. Then I'd be okay with that if we were getting movies every 2 years. That to me, that's normal.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in the 80s and 90s when we were getting a Star Trek movie every 2 years. So let's go back to that. Hell, I think we could do a movie every year.
I mean, I think we could too. I could see them maybe wanting to like not rush into like things, or like wanting like maybe this is all like Paramount will like admit to right now, and they'll be like, okay, if this does well, we'll make more.
But there'd be so much fun potential just like doing movies again, like the Lost era between Star Trek 6 and Star Trek Generations. Like do something cool. Get like George Takei and Walter Koenig to do like one last, give them to do like one like last like buddy
I
cop adventure
I
type
love that
thing.
we're just fully admitting that we don't think they'd make something with William Shatner.
Well, I mean, it'd be hard because Kirk's dead and he's old. Well,
And
William Shatner looks too old to be like
also
pre-generations Kirk.
George Takei and William Shatner do not get along.
Yeah, no, they're not going to do some. I
Yeah.
don't know. They might. I mean, like they didn't like each other, and any of that stuff they were doing before. But I have a hard time seeing it now today.
Yeah.
I'd like, I don't even think like they go on like the Star Trek cruise the same year. I think the company that does the cruises, ECP, I think they intentionally like don't book both of them on the same year. Like they don't want them like have a fight in the elevator or something.
Oh, how good would that be to hear about that?
It's funny, like going to conventions and like they'll like you have like the George Takei panel, and you go to that and he like talks shit about William Shatner, and then later in the day you go to the William Shatner panel, and someone inevitably like goes to the microphone and says like, "Did you know that George said this about you?" And then Shatner will like start talking shit about Takei. It's kind of sad that like these dudes in their these 90-year-old dudes, like in that old age, like
Is there still? It's that
yeah,
grudge is
like
still going.
you don't want to bury the hatchet, but I mean, who knows? Like James Doohan had like that. I guess I don't want to say like a deathbed confession, but maybe that is how it played out. But like, I guess like when he was like there at the end, I guess he did have like some nice words about Shatner, but I don't know. I don't know. He might have been a little out of it at that point. So
Yeah. I had always heard the story that like Shatner was like really rude to like him while they were like the kind of his last convention. He was like kind of you know, a little more out of it, and Shatner was just like really rude about it.
To who? To Kay?
To James Doohan,
Oh.
and he was like suffering from dementia and kind of doing his like, you know, his farewell tour thing,
Mm-hmm.
and was just like really rude about it. And I was like,
Yeah, it's one of the sad things about the TOS actors. Like, I love the original series, but I'll say, you know, like the one thing that I think uh, TNG has that's so special that the original series never did was that the TNG actors actually like really love each other as much as the
mm-hmm.
characters do.
And like
And
in
with
this,
TOS, they're just pretending when they act like they like each
yeah,
other.
and like the other shows, they seem to get along great. Like even like they get along fine. They like have a good time together. The TNG people genuinely seem like best friends.
Yeah, like they talk about that. Like, you know, I heard
Mhm.
Michael Dorn say recently, like, you know, it's not like we stopped shooting Nemesis and then we all like disappeared from each. Like, yeah, we are friends. We talk to each
Yeah.
other all the time. We see each other all the time. Will Wheaton always talks about like their group text that they
Mhm.
have. Like,
I could see maybe, and this also could how close they are. This could totally not be true. Is that maybe there aren't all of them in the same room together all the time? Because that's like hard to arrange. But like they seem to hang out all the time.
yeah, they're in like each other's weddings and stuff.
Mhm.
I know George Takei did that too. He had like Walter Koenig and Nichelle Nichols in his wedding. But like I saw like Walter Koenig like get interviewed and was like, "Are you really like best friends with George Takei? Like I saw you were like the best man at the wedding." He's like, "No, I think that was like more like we're friends. I think that was more of like a publicity thing than anything else." Like, I was like, "Well, at least you admit to it."
Yeah. Whereas, like, I believe that Shatner, not that Patrick Stewart wanted Brent Spiner to be his best man at one of his weddings, anyways.
Yeah, and it's like I think like Brent Spiner is like the godfather to Gates McFadden's child or something like the one she
Oh,
was
I
like
think I've read
pregnant
that.
with
Yeah,
in was it
in season
Remember Me?
4.
Yeah.
I think it is Remember Me.
I just remember like she had like that big stunt when she's getting like sucked across
Mhm.
the ship. And it's like, oh yeah, it turns out she was pregnant when they shot that, but hadn't told anyone yet, I don't think.
Maybe that's when you pull the stunt coordinator over and be like, "Hey, I've got news. Please don't tell
This
anyone."
same thing happened with Roxanne Dawson in Voyager in season 4 when her and Tom Paris were stranded floating out in space and they had to be
Oh,
like rigged up
no.
on harnesses.
Mhm. I've heard like this one isn't Star Trek, but on Edge of Tomorrow, I guess when they came back and did reshoots, Emily Blunt was pregnant. And so she was, like, opting out of stunts. And I guess Tom Cruise was concerned because she had done the stunts the first time, and she had to pull him aside to be like, "I'm pregnant. Like, that's why I'm not doing
Yeah,
stunts."
actresses getting pregnant has
Mhm.
plagued filmmakers for a century at this point. But you know, sometimes you have to come up with creative solutions, like
Yeah.
DS9 did, and just be like, "Oh, we just beamed the baby into
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 Kira.
Nana." So
I am afraid he's getting to that part soon, and I was like, "It'll be interesting to see if she asks." She's like, "The actress," like, I could just see her be like, "The actress is pregnant, right?" Because the storyline's insane.
yeah, well, when Dave got to that in DS9, he's like, you know, that was one of the more creative ways of handling like a
Mhm.
on-screen pregnancy. I
Oh.
hadn't thought of that before. Just beam the baby into the character.
I love what like, seeing ways they cover pregnancies because they're often insane.
Well, there's another piece of Paramount Plus news today,
Mhm.
or I guess like rumored, but there's I just saw this right before we went live, but I guess now there's some rumblings of also from the Hollywood Reporter, and I guess Variety picked up on it as well. A possible Galaxy Quest show on Paramount Plus.
I saw that too. I like excited about that. I said before, it'd be interesting to see what they do because I love Alan Rickman and like it was so sad to me. I was like devastated when he passed away and like that he wasn't like they weren't going to be doing that Galaxy Quest show anymore. It'll be interesting to see who they like because I don't know that every actor from Galaxy Quest would be interested in like coming back.
Yeah, like I don't know if Tim Allen is gonna get invited back or if he would want
Mhm.
to come back. I don't know, like Sigourney Weaver, like same thing. Well, speaking of like actors with like, you know, big successful careers, I think if you're packing too many of these people into one show, you're gonna make it too expensive. So
Yeah.
it's possible that they just, keep the characters and the premise and just reboot it with a new cast.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could do, just a sequel, I guess, and be like, okay, this is like a different Galaxy cast, your
Do
Galaxy
they?
Quest
So do
cast.
we think? What do we think a Galaxy Quest plot is? Do we think they're just making the show Galaxy Quest that exists in that universe, or are we making a plot about actors going to
No,
space?
I think it's gonna be like the, what if this happened where like some alien showed up to Earth and they thought that Star Trek was real and they took the actors into like a space adventure. I think it's gonna have to have some level of that
Yeah,
to be Galaxy Quest.
I agree. I also like Aaron's suggestion of a Galaxy Quest Lower Decks crossover. That is hilarious, and I want it now. Do I think that will happen? Probably not, but
Yeah, I don't know if we need to cross the streams that much, but
um,
I'm sure it would be good. I think if they're working with the original producer from Galaxy Quest, if the rumors are to be believed, I think his name's Mark Johnson, right? Is that yeah, I mean he's clearly a funny dude, and I love what McMahon's done on Lower Decks. So yeah, a
mhm.
collaboration between the two of them, I'm sure would be entertaining
I
as
could
all hell.
see, you know what I could see them doing is since they're both Paramount, doing like a funny ad with both the like crossing over, but
Yeah,
not like an official like canon thing.
yeah,
You
yeah. Because
know, they'll hang it on the Paramount Mountain. It'll be great.
I mean, I guess it's possible like Galaxy Quest could take place in the past of Star Trek, or I guess it could be
Mm,
like a different universe. But when we start, we're just now getting to where like the shows are crossing over, where Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks are going to cross over.
this is true.
But yeah,
I've
maybe at
always
some
been
point we'll be crossing over with other franchises.
surprised that Star Trek doesn't do more crossovers between the shows, especially in the 90s. I mean, they did
Yeah,
some.
they did some. I always, like I'll go to like Buffy and Angel for an example, and I guess like
Mhm.
the CW DC comics shows have done this a lot, but there is a big example for me is like, okay, there's this one time in season 4 of Buffy. It's the first year that they launched Angel, a spinoff with a character from Buffy went to go have his own show. And they basically did like a two-parter,
Mhm.
and like part 1 was an episode of Buffy, and then part 2 was an episode of Angel, and both shows, released that same week. They do
Yeah.
that all the time with the CW with like Arrow and Flash and all of them, Legends of
I'm
Tomorrow, whatever.
surprised they never did like that on the older Star Trek shows.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been weird after DS9 and Voyager had like the biggest overlap, and they were kind of
And
hard to. But when I It's funny, the episode "Message in a Bottle," which I feel like I've talked about a lot lately.
mhm.
But when Voyager first makes real contact with the Federation, with Starfleet, and I always thought like, wouldn't it be cool if like they mentioned this in DS9, and then like they never did.
Yeah.
But I always thought because that was cool because like on Voyager like they mentioned like the Dominion War, and like the Doctor didn't know anything about like the
Oh,
Dominion. What are you
yeah,
talking
it's
about?
in that same episode. He says
Right.
the Romulans have not joined the Dominion War. The Doctor's like, "What? What war?"
Yeah. Uh, And there is like even I think a Defiant class ship that shows up to battle the Prometheus there, and
Mhm.
I remember watching it and being like, "Oh my god, is that the Defiant?" And it wasn't, but I wish at the time I really wished that it was. I
Yeah,
thought it
or
wouldn't it
like
be cool if I saw like Worf and O'Brien and Dax on board that ship.
I think we talked about it before, but like, and I guess at the end of that one Deep Space Nine episode where they have Dr. Zimmerman, am I remembering his name right?
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of that episode right now. And if they had when you met the EMH Mark II, if it had been Alexander Siddig, and but I guess at the end of that episode they decided not to do that. But like that could have been like a crossover.
Yeah, yeah. If they had Sadig instead of Andy Dick,
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
I mean, I would prefer for a multitude of reasons, including just not wanting to have Andy Dick there. That's the main one, honestly. I and they also had like Mirror Tuvok.
yeah, yeah. In season 3,
But yeah, it does seem like something that could be mentioned on Deep Space Nine. Like, oh my god, you remember that ship that disappeared from here? They found them. Like,
Wasn't Naomi Wildman's dad was supposed to be stationed at DS9?
Is that where it's supposed to be stationed?
So wouldn't it be
Met his
cool
dad. Like,
if he
yeah,
had
met
been
her
like a
dad.
character, if they like one of like like the later season episodes of DS9, if he was like walking around being like, I just read like the latest letter from my daughter in the
Hmm.
Delta Quad. Like I
My
hope
daughter that I've never met.
yeah, I hope I get to meet her someday in person.
Yeah.
That would have been cool if they, missed opportunities. But yeah, I think that they've done a good enough job now kind of establishing the identities of all these various Star Trek shows that
Hmm.
yeah, they could start crossing over a little bit more liberally. It's just they put everything in its own time period, so it's like a little weird. It can't be
Yeah,
like
that's like, um, I guess they did do a little bit, but I feel like TNG and Deep Space Nine could have crossed over a little more.
yeah. I mean, they put I guess DS9 on TNG a little more than they put TNG in DS9.
Hmm.
We had Picard and Riker and Q all show up, and
This is true.
Waxana all show up in D. No, so no, I guess there's a lot over there. And then on TNG they actually go to the station, and then they there's
Yeah.
that time when Riker calls Quark to
Hmm.
question him about something.
There's that one with Bashir, and for a second, there's a second where they clearly didn't think his feet were in shot, and
Yeah, he's got the wrong shoes on.
he's wearing white sneakers. Like,
Yeah, but that's like the only time we get to see Morn in HD. Well, until like they remastered footage for the documentary.
one day I want remastered Deep Space Nine so badly.
Well, one day I think it might happen when the
Hmm.
AI software gets good enough and cheap enough. But yeah, I'm excited about like this new era of like a movie every 2 years. I think that's like a little bit more exciting than like the actual like Section 31 news. I guess I'm glad to
Hmm.
like have that as like official news. Like it's finally happening, and people can finally stop debating if or when it's ever going to happen. I'm just a little nervous because how I feel about Section 31 overall, and I've been really bothered by the way that modern Trek has used them, mainly with like Picard, which is like the way of Worf calling Section 31 a critical part of Section 31 is a critical part of Starfleet intelligence, and it's just like it
Hmm.
doesn't to me like that just doesn't gel with what they established in DS9. So my hope would be that this movie tries to address that. I know that was the plan for the show. I think it would be a lot harder to pull that off in a movie, and it might not even be like their primary objective with this movie. That might just be like a little bit of an afterthought. They're not going to concern themselves with too much because who really cares about the continuity of Star Trek or stuff. It's mainly just the hardcore Trek fans, not so much like
Hmm.
the general audience that is going to be like, oh, cool, the Section 31. That's like a Star Trek thing, right? With like Michelle
Yeah.
Yeoh, like okay, I'll give it a try.
I mean, but honestly, before they did in Discovery, I think if I had said Section 31 to most like more casual Star Trek fans, I think that they would have not known what I was talking
Hmm.
about. Like,
Well, and I'll also say this: most of the creative decisions in Picard season 3, I think actually like wouldn't look good on paper if I saw like a
hmm.
outline of the story of season 3. I'd be like, I don't know if this is a good idea. But like watching it, like the execution of it, it did really surprise me. So that was like a good reminder not to judge things before I see them. So I'll remain a little cautiously optimistic, I suppose. But
Hmm.
yeah, if it turns out like, oh, I hate this, I don't like this, it's like, well, it was just one movie.
This is true.
Maybe they'll make another movie in 2 years that I like more, and yeah, that's a long trek. I like that. Maybe I'll start using
I
that
want to
phrase.
say
But
it was someone on Twitter. I want to say that it was uh oh my god, my mind Trek Central maybe.
that's basically what a movie is, right? It's a long
Yeah.
episode instead of a
Hmm.
short trek is a short episode. So,
I'm sorry if I said the wrong thing and I'm stealing your joke. I'm not trying to.
well, whoever came up with that.
I think I've retweeted it at some point. Oh, later.
Joel in our live audience is suggesting Starbase 80 for the second movie. Yeah, I think something 25th century. I want to explore that
I do too.
time period. I don't have anything else. We have like a big show coming up Friday with the Star Trek Picard series finale. So
It's
that'll be
happening.
fun, yeah. And then no new Star Trek for 8 weeks, and we'll have some content. I think next week we'll do a just kind of recap and retrospective on all of Picard season 3 and kind of like that series as a whole, and even a bit of maybe like that TNG era as a whole, if this is truly the end of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we might like take like a couple of weeks off. It's not have like the weekly show on Friday, just because I've been doing this for a long time and I really need a break.
That's fair.
But yeah, we'll have some other stuff coming up before Strange New Worlds. And then of course I'm really excited for Strange New Worlds season 2. I had a lot of fun with season 1. That's probably my favorite Trek show in production right now. I kind of hate saying that because like I love the animated so much. I think like Prodigy and Lower Decks are so good at what they do. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a real joy to Strange New Worlds that I think is such a consistent thing there that none of the other Star Trek shows quite make me smile as much as Strange New Worlds does. So I'm really eager to discuss season 2 with everyone, and then of course those animated shows I was just praising, Prodigy, Lower Decks first, and then Prodigy later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, plenty of try. Then we'll have like a won't be that long. I mean, like we're already in April, so it'll be before we know it, it'll be 2024, and we'll be watching the final season of Discovery. That's crazy.
Time's going too fast. Slow down, but also slow down, but also hurry up and give me more Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, the future looks bright. Lots of things in development, lots of things in production, and I hope people come back Friday to hear us talk about the big finale episode of Picard. And you can also listen to the show wherever you get your podcast. But I don't have anything else. So Rachel, is there anything you wanted to mention about the Section 31 movie or anything
Um,
else?
I'm excited, and I'm really excited, especially for like I have friends that I got into Star Trek kind of through Discovery because I knew like it's a good entry point, and I know like
Mm-hmm.
they're really excited to see the characters from that come back.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and close her down for the night. But until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.